Om Bhadram Karnevihi Shrunuyama Devaha Bhadram Pashe Makshabhiryajatraha Tirairangai Tushtuvagamam Swastanovihi Yashema Vevahitam Yadayuhu Swasti na Indro Vruddhashravah Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedah Swasti nastaksho arishtanehi Swasti no Brihaspati dadatu Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. So last class we have done query 4 up to verse 3. Yeah. It starts with Sauryayani Gargya, who is the student who has asked the questions. As I mentioned, we moved into something which we call it as a intellect sheath. Intellect sheath. Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, more or less. And whenever we come to Vijnanamaya Kosha, as I mentioned, no longer the Karya Karana Vichara will help us in terms of understanding. We need to move to something which we call it as Drik Drishya Viveka. This Drik Drishya Viveka, ShankarJi wrote a book on itself, if you remember that. Yeah. So this Drik Drishya Viveka is the one Jayaji will be taking September onwards. We are going to do that. Anyway, I'm telling, but this will be announced shortly to the group. What we need to understand with Drik Drishya Viveka is we need to bring in observer. Observer, whenever we see, you normally hear a term which we call it as Sakshi. Sakshi Chaitanya. Yeah, this is very, very popularly used. Means there's a witnessing consciousness inside you. Once you are able to separate out this consciousness principle from your inert layers. What I mean by that, normally we call this as Avastha Traya Viveka. Means what? Avastha. There are 3 avasthas, each one of waking state, the dream state, and the deep sleep state. Yeah? Jagrat Avastha, Swapna Avastha, and Sushupti Avastha. These 3 avasthas. And whenever we are thinking of these 3 avasthas, there is a seer. When I am seeing in the waking state, there is a seer who is enjoying the waking state. Similarly, a dream, there is an enjoyer who is enjoying that dream state. And similarly, there is an enjoyer who is enjoying the bliss in the deep sleep state. So whenever we are talking about this Avastha Traya Viveka, we are automatically bringing in an observer. And once we separate out this observer from these 3 avasthas and say that there is a common observer who actually is enjoying all these 3. Although experientially they look different, because in our dream state, whoever is experienced seems to be different from my waker as such. Why? Because when I'm doing the dream, when I'm seeing a dream, no longer I'm having the same body as the waker. That body which I get in the dream has got different capacity. Sometimes I fly, sometimes I don't have legs, sometimes all kinds of nightmares. We can have all kinds of wonderful things that can happen in your dreams. So you are enjoying a different body altogether in your dream. It appears as if, and also you seem to be having a different world that you created on your own as far as the dream is concerned. And similarly, in the deep sleep state, both the body, mind, ego, everything is dropped. Yet when you get up in the morning, you have that I-ness associated with all the 3 states. And a memory is associated with all the 3 states. And that is the reason why this Avastha Traya Viveka becomes very important. And this Drik Drishya Viveka comes into picture. That common Sakshi Chaitanyam is different from all these 3 experiences of the 3 states that I have. And that particular aspect of consciousness appear to be not only separate, but that appears to be the true enjoyer of the 3 states, using the mind, intellect, and body as an instruments. This is the general concept of the observed analysis once we do the Drishya Vivek. So you will see that Gargya, grandson of Surya, has asked the questions as to which are the organs that sleep, which go to sleep when a man sleeps, a person sleeps, and which again are awake in him. Second question was that, which is the Devata who sees the dream? Whose is the happiness? Happiness, when we talk about, he is talking about the deep sleep happiness or the bliss aspect of the deep sleep. And last question is supposed to be most important. First time, the Rishi, Pipalada, will talk about that particular Brahman in whom entire thing is going and resting. So the question that this particular Saurya Gargya asked is, on which do all these indeed depend? Means all the factors that are sleeping, that are awake, etc., and who is sleeping and enjoying the dream, who is enjoying the Sushupti, whom all these factors are depending on. Means there is a identification that there is something well beyond your individuality and individual observers that you are seem to be experiencing in your three avasthas, three states. That is a general question that was asked by this particular student. Yeah. So Pipalada goes into, as usual, he answers the questions directly, but then he goes off into a tangent, like he always did in the last three questions. He goes off into a tangent. We will see what that is. And he says that it gives a beautiful example. When question came as to which are the things, which are the factors which sleep in a man, he says that just like a rays of a setting sun, in the sunset, when you go there and see, it appears as if the orb of the sun goes down, and as it is going down, it is withdrawing the millions of rays that are coming out of the sun, lighting up the entire earth around us. It seems to be all the rays are withdrawn into it. He says, similarly, all your indriyas, 5 jnanendriyas and 5 karmendriyas, appear to be withdrawn into the mind. So it gives an example of that particular one, how they are withdrawn. He says the senses, all the senses seem to be withdrawn into a devata it calls mind. Mind is called a devata there. Yeah? A devata called mind appears to be withdrawing that. And once withdrawn, means those senses are sleeping. So he's answering the question directly, telling that all the senses are withdrawn. So senses don't function when the sleep happens. Yeah. And next one, when he talks about, he says that third verse when we are looking at, he says that he now compares prana with flames. Till now what we have seen is prana is vayu. Prana vayu, apana vayu, samana vayu, udana vayu. Like that we call it as vayu. Vayu means air. But here he talks about flames of prana. The flames of prana are awake. Means these vayus normally function within the body, looking after the physiological functions. Whereas now body in the sleep is completely off. It is not functioning for us as a sleeper. The body is not available as such, but something is working which is keeping these body, mind, intellect active during the night. Mind and intellect not so much, but body is kept alive by something. And that's something he calls it as flames of prana, fires of prana. And the moment he talks about fires of prana, he started comparing in verse 3, the apana vayu was compared to something called garhyapatyagni. And vyana vayu, or vyana is prana, is compared to anvaharya pachana fire or dakshina fire, it is called. And the prana itself is compared to ahavaniya fire. We have seen briefly what they are in terms of the yajna that they used to conduct. Any yajna that they conduct, there used to be certain fires that the community used to maintain. This Garhyapatya Agni, as I mentioned, is a fire that every new Grihapati will start a fire in the house somewhere. And that Garhyapatya Agni is continuously kept as long as the Grihapati is there, means a householder is there, that particular fire is supposed to continuously run. They have to take care of that. And any household requirement, any other requirement of fire is taken out of this Garhyapatya Agni. That is what that Garhyapatya Agni is. And the second we saw was Vyana was compared to Anvaharya Pachana. This Anvaharya Pachana fire is also taken from Garhyapatya fire, but that is when there is a requirement for some Pitru Karya. Means if your father others have passed away and you require to do a karyam, which we normally do, a fire is required. For that, this particular fire is taken out of Garhyapatya, and that particular fire will then be called as Anvaharya Pachana. So any Pitru Karyas, anything remembering your forefathers, any of the activities that you are doing requires this particular. Third one is Prana is compared to Ahavaniya fire. This Ahavaniya fire again comes out of Garhyapatya. As I told, that is the only fire which continuously runs. And this Ahavaniya fire is for any Deva Karya. So if you are doing some Yajna, Yaga, etc., you require fire to be lit into that this one. You take out of Garhyapatya and that fire then becomes a Ahavaniya fire. So that is used for Deva Karya. Now that is compared to Prana. So three of them we have seen last time. So in the fourth verse, we will talk about the balance too. Yeah. Again, I mentioned this particular thing, I think last time. Shankaracharya is pretty clear that suddenly the Rishi, instead of directly answering questions, is going and comparing the pranas which are alive with some Veda, Yajna Karya. So some Yajna is being done and he is using that as Hutam and who is the Hotra, etc., etc. We will read 4 and then try to discuss this particular one. Yeah, Shankaracharya says that this can be compared to the Agnihotra ritual only when Upasana is done. Shankaracharya says that you cannot compare this prana inside what is being done unless some sadhaka is there and he is doing Upasana on the Brahman. Only then this particular thing can be compared to Agnihotra. Otherwise, it is just like this one. So the terms are used in terms of a sleep, in terms of deep sleep, in terms of dream. But you will see that the words that are used and also the concepts that are presented through these next 4-5 verses, it is pretty clear he is actually talking of some upasana or a sadhana that is being done where the pranas are now being compared. But you can also cover the answers for the questions that are asked in the general terms of dream and sleep as well. But we will see the subtle differences. Why Shankaracharya says that this is actually a upasana. It is not general sleeping of a person, but there is a upasana associated. Okay? Okay. Verse 4 we will read. Yeah. Yaduchavasanaihi Saswav ita vahuti Samam nayatiti sasamanaha Manohava yajamanaha Ishtafalamevodanaha Sayenam Yajamanam Ahar Brahma Gamayati. So now the Samana Vayu is being compared to a Samana fire, we can still say, but here the fire is not used. Why? You will see that Samana, Uchvasa, Nisvasa. I hope you all know these two terms. Inhalation and exhalation of the breath is called Uchvasa, Nisvasa. So he says that this particular thing is being taken as a dual ahuti, homam, ahuti that is done is in homam, you give this one. So every inhalation and exhalation is kind of a ahuti that is happening inside. So you are taking in, you are actually taking in something and giving it to the Vaishvanara inside. And when you gave it out as well, it is coming out as a ahuti to the devatas who are outside, kind of. So it is being told like that. And this samana vayu, he says that is the one which actually distributes during the sleep time. It distributes the required oxygen to everywhere, all the parts. Samana takes that particular role of distribution of this, it says. Yeah. And that particular thing is being compared to, remember, we are still in that yaga mode. He says this samana is just like a hotra. Hotru is the priest who conducts the yajna. So samana is the one who is conducting this yajna. Why that particular thing comes into picture? Whenever a priest is there and a fire is there into which the oblations are being offered, the hotru is supposed to take care of where that particular, even if a ghee, for example, clarified butter is poured into the yajna, he will tell where exactly it should be put. Whether it should be in the east side or west side or this one, he will be comparing and he will be controlling. Why? Because unless you control that, the fire can be uncontrollable or it will go out. So you require to take care of the fire throughout that yajna when it is happening. So hotru is the one who actually distributes this particular thing in and around that particular fire. And that is the reason he says this samana, who is distributing this inhalation, exhalation aspect to everywhere, that particular samana is compared to the hotra. Yeah? That is how it is being told here. And samam nayati iti samana means it is distributing equally to everyone. Manohavava yajamana. Now, okay, he is the priest, but there must be some yajaman who is conducting this one. Who is that yajaman? Mana. Manaha, or the mind now, becomes the yajaman. So mind is the yajamana, samana is the hotra, and you have the apana, vyana, and prana taken care in terms of different fires that are used for conducting the yajnas. Whether it is the pitrukarya, whether it is devakarya, everything comes out of grihapati, garhyapatyaga. That is how it is done here. And it says, udana prana is still left behind. Remember? So this udana prana, he says, ishtafalame udana. Ishtafalame udana. Ishtafalameva udanaha means what? Whenever you are conducting a yajna, you are doing it for obtaining some phala. So here he says that udana is being compared to the fruit of the yajna. So when you are doing sadhana, and that sadhana has to give some kind of a result to you, that particular thing is taken care by udana. In terms of sleep, what it is doing, he says, ahar ahar brahmagamayat. Every evening, again and again, ahar ahar, again and again, once you go to sleep, this udana prana leads the sleeper into a bliss, into the deep sleep where, but it says, doesn't say that it takes you to the sleep. He says Brahma. So it leads you to the Brahman. Now, you may wonder, where is Brahman coming? If I am every day going to Brahman, then how come I am not getting mukti? Morning I should not even get up, no need, because all of us get mukti. So the idea where ShankarJi comes with this is exactly this type of wordings that are used by the Rishi. As far as the sleep is concerned, when the deep sleep and something called turiya, they are more or less in the same state. So one goes into samadhi in the meditation. When a person goes into samadhi, the state of samadhi, state of the deep sleep, sushupti, they are comparable in many ways. In the sense that both are linked to bliss. In turiya state, when you are seeing nothing but that Brahman in your deep meditation, you also enjoy the similar kind of a bliss is what they say. In the Sushupti Avastha, only problem we have is there is a ignorance also associated with this. So although I am enjoying the bliss that is belonging to the Brahman, unfortunately, I don't have any idea or any experience directly related to that when I get up in the morning. And that is the reason why the people say that Sushupti, although comparable to the deep sleep Samadhi, mainly the difference is that in Samadhi state, you deliberately go into deep sleep. You are awake, but at the same time, you are still in the similar to a deep sleep. If somebody measures your mind in terms of alpha, beta waves, etc., it will come very, very similar. And this was proved by Swami Rama in 1950s when he did the experiments. He proved to them. He was fully awake. He explained as to what happened in and around, but all the machines were indicating that he is in deep sleep. So as far as the mind is concerned, it is similar to a deep sleep, but a person is fully aware of his surroundings. That becomes a Samadhi state, in short. Yeah. So here we are talking about Ishtaphalameva. Ishtaphala is a very subtle word that Rishi is using here. In the sense, if you link everything to sadhana. For example, when we talk about Garhyapatya, Ahvaniya, and Anvarya Pachana, etc., why they are compared is any Gruhapati means any sadhaka, once he is doing, expected to be a Gruhapati. A householder only starts this journey because at that time, very young marriages used to happen. This sadhana will continue even after the marriage is over. And that Gruhapati is somebody who enjoys the world. That is why he is getting married. Yeah. So when you talk about you live in your lower chakras as a Gruhapati, you are expected to procreation, enjoyment. These are part and parcel of that. And these place where we know is normally in terms of Vayus, the Apana Vayu is normally in these areas. In the lower areas is where the Apana Vayu is there, which we have seen. So here the Apana Vayu is compared to Gruhapati or Garhyapatya. And second one is Udana Vayu. Udana Vayu is compared to Anvaharya Pachana, which is linked to Pitrukarya, as I mentioned. Any Pitrukarya, when we are talking about forefathers, we have seen even the questions before, it is always linked to the Karya Karana Vichara. Means my cause is my father, my father's cause is his father's cause is his father. How come so many these ones are getting created? The first question asked was similar to that. So whenever we talk about that particular Karya Karana Vichara comes into picture, and finally some analysis with some help from a guru, people will understand that the original cause really doesn't require any cause at all, because there is no creation to start with. That's how we have seen in terms of the answers given by the Rishi before also. So that is why that particular Anvaharya Pachana is compared to Jnana. Jnana, we have seen, is linked to the expansion from your Vyashti to Samashti, from individual to the totality is what Jnana does. It expands. The very meaning of Jnana is expansion. So when you expand using your analysis or the aspect of your intellect, that is where the Jnana Prana helps in terms of expansion, in terms of understanding the world better, understanding Brahman better. So you compare to Anvaharya Pachana. Ahvaniya Prana is Deva directly. So whenever you are doing a bhakti associated with the Brahman, automatically it comes to Ahvaniya fire. So that's how that compare to that particular aspects. And when we have seen that whenever there is a comparison with the this particular ritual, yoga, yajna ritual, Shankaracharya is talking about that is when a particular person is doing sadhana. not a general sleeping, but it is somebody doing sadhana, and there is associated linkages with these terms is how we have put across. And similarly, Ishtafala, as I mentioned, it depends upon at what level you are doing your sadhana. At every level, I have a particular goal in my mind when I do sadhana. For example, even if I'm doing meditation, for example, I may start with, if I can sit for 10 minutes without moving, it is good enough. That is the goal that I am going with. But once I achieve that, my next with this one will be, I require to control my mind, then control my intellect, control my ego. So the goals will change. So this Ishtafala depends upon the type of sadhana, level of sadhana one is doing. And Udana Prana takes care of that. It takes care in reaching the student as to what that Ishtafala is. And that particular thing is called Ishtaphalameva Udana. But in case of normal, this was, that's why in the next verse it says, Ahar Har Brahmagamaya. Every time it takes you to Brahman. Means you go closer to the Brahman, understanding of the Brahman, whenever there is a continuous practice. Ahar Ahar. Every day if you are doing this practice, ultimately you will reach the goal of Brahman, is the assurance that is being given here. But in general terms, in terms of sleep, that particular Brahman represents the bliss you get in your deep sleep. So every day, again, that also Udana does. Udana is the one who takes the sleeper, a dreamer, into a deep sleep where he enjoys the bliss aspect of the Brahman. Although in a, Gurudev says in a negative way. Really speaking, because of the ajnana, because of the ignorance that is lying every day, I experience Brahman every day in my night, in the deep sleep, because the bliss aspect comes only from Brahman. However, because of the ignorance, I am not able to recognize that fact. Experience each one of us has. Only thing is, I don't have the knowledge associated, and that is the reason all Guru has to do is to give you the knowledge and experience you have already. That is how Gurudev actually explains that particular deep sleep experience each one of us has got. Okay, and that's why it's called Anandamaya Kosha. If you see deep sleep, it is called Anandamaya Kosha. Okay, we'll go to verse 5. Now he is answering as to what is the definition of swapna. Who is enjoying the swapna is the one which has come into picture. Yeah. Atraisha devaha swapne mahimanam anubhavati yad drashtam drashtam anupashyati shrutam evartham anushrunoti desha digantaraischa pratyanubhutam punah pratyanubhavati drashtam cha shrutam cha anubhutam chanu bhutam cha satcha sarvam pashyati sarvaha pashyati. A very, very beautiful verse, giving a complete definition of what the sleep is. Who is enjoying? Yeah, we will see. But very beautiful example of the sleep itself. Definition of the sleep is given here. Yeah. So in this state means that particular state where Udana Vayu, Udana Prana has taken the Jiva, the ego, to the Brahman. Ahar Ahar, that is how it has been described. So you have a picture that is given in terms of Hotru, that is Yajna that is being done. And in this Yajna, pranas are alive, pranas are awake, and these pranas are supporting the body and mind which are there. And in that particular this one, somebody is watching the dream. How it is being shown? In this state, mind is the one who is enjoying the dream. Yeah. Mind enjoys the dream and its greatness, he says. Why it is greatness when we are talking about? He says, what has been seen, it sees again. Yad drashtam cha anupashyati. Shrutameva anushrunoti. So whatever it has heard before, it will hear again. Whatever has been enjoyed in different places, deshakala, whenever it has been enjoyed before in different countries, different places, not countries, but places, it enjoys again. And best thing is what has been seen and not seen. Drashtam cha adrishtam cha. And what is heard and not heard, that also it enjoys. Experienced and not experienced. Real and unreal. Sat and asat. All of them. So in your dream, your rabbit can have the horns, which normally is given by Shankaracharya as an example to say that that is asat as an example. In dream, it is possible. Your rabbit can have horns and it will be running around. It is possible. And he sees all. And he sees all by being all. A very, very important concept of dream is told here. And as I mentioned, this particular chapter, we will see that the dream concept is used. However, the concept of dream is not really dream, but even your regular experiential world is like that. Means the consciousness, being all, sees all. Consciousness sees all by being all. How is it in the this one we will see, next verse also it will expand a bit more, but it is the consciousness which is enlivening your inert layers. So when it pervades into your mind, mind becomes mind really, and it sees the thoughts. The 5 jnanendriyas, the eyes for example, consciousness when it goes into your eyes become eyes in terms of seeing the things that are to be seen. And hearing things, ear, again the consciousness is the one which actually pervades into your ear, and the ear becomes capable of hearing things outside. So by seeing all, by being all, a very, very important concept with this one particular statement that he has made. Sarvaha pashyati, sarvaha pashyati. He sees all by being all. So there is nothing where the consciousness is not there. There is nothing that consciousness is not in terms of your experience. Really speaking, everything is consciousness, but that particular consciousness is the one also seeing. A message that is kept here is that particular this one. But as far as the dream is concerned, he has given an answer to say it is the mind which actually projects this. And from the mind perspective, again, exactly the same concept is very much applicable. It is the mind which becomes all and sees all. How? Because in your dream, really speaking, a very complex story may be going on in your dream. Yeah. So there is a drama that is going on in terms of you went to see a Ramayana. Now that Rama has come their picture and Sita has come and Sita has seen the deer and Sita says that I want that particular deer. So Rama is going, then Lakshmana stays back. Then Maricha in the form of deer will start shouting, Hey Rama, Hey Rama. And Lakshmana puts a Lakshmana Rekha. All that Ravana comes and takes the Sita away. For example, this is the story that we are seeing in the dream. Now, whether you are seeing a deer, whether you are seeing Rama, whether you are seeing Sita, Lakshmana, Ravana, lion, any woods which are around, a blade of grass, there is a river that is flowing, doesn't matter what in the dream. everything is your mind only. There is nothing but your mind. And mind is the one which is also seeing. So being all, seeing all. Very, very important concept. If you apply this to your waking world, you cannot deny this logic. There is no way you can say that a waking world, what is you are seeing every time, is any different from your dream. Only thing is the consistency. Consistency, every day I am able to see the same things. In dream, you may leave from one bedroom to the other bedroom. You may wake up in a different country, in a different bed. If you are lucky enough, in a very nice, beautiful beach. But doesn't matter where you are waking up. In a dream, you may go. But in the waking state, the things appear to be more constant, more sthira. Apart from that, really speaking, waking and dreaming are exactly the same as far as your mind is concerned.
So
go ahead.
Are you saying that when we are awake, we can imagine that we are at the beach in real fact? We can feel it?
What I'm telling you is, if you apply the same logic as your dream, in your waking also, it is no different, because all the experience of the outside world is happening in your mind in terms of a thought. It is not really you are experiencing. If I'm seeing this, I'm seeing a bag there. I'm not seeing really bag there. I'm seeing it in my mind as a form of a thought.
So you can convince your mind to say that, even though you're just sitting.
Not convinced or anything. Sorry. I'm not convincing anything or trying to say anything. What I'm trying to say is, if you apply a logic really to a waking world, it is no different from your dream. It is impossible for you to say that your waking world is different from your dream world. Only here, the dreamer appears to be different. Agree? Yeah, dreamer appears to be different than your dream world. But once in a dream world, you are coming out, because you are the mind. Your mind is experiencing this dream. You are very clear that everything that is created outside is created by your mind. Whereas in the waking, I am not sure about that. So what Shastra say, it is the dream of somebody else, maybe Ishvara. You are living Ishvara's dream. In fact, Ishvara is living his dream through you. You are only an instrument in terms of Ishvara. Ishvara's dream is happening. He is the one who is really enjoying. You can take it that way. Yeah. But comparatively, waking, dream are exactly same. That is how we normally see this. Why I'm telling this, he sees all by being all, is a very important concept to say that Ishvara Sarvavyapi. He is there everywhere. So by being all, he is seeing all. Just like you do, by being all and seeing all in your dream, it is Ishvara who is being all, he is seeing all. But you actually appropriate that ownership of seer and say, I am the one who is doing it. I become doer, I become enjoyer. But if you put it this way, and in the next verse, he will say that. He will come out with that particular. Yeah. Verse number 6, yeah. Sayada Tejasa Vibhuti Vibhuto Bhavati Atresha Devaha Swapnanna Pashyati Atha Tadai Tasmin Sharire Etat Sukham Bhavati. Again, a very wonderful concept is introduced by Rishi here. Yeah, he says, he describing now the Sushupti Avastha, wherein you are going into your deep sleep state, what is going on. But the term he uses is Sayeda Tejasa Bhabhuti Bhavati. Means that when the mind is overpowered by a light. If you see the explanation given by Gurudev in the text, it says, When the mind is overpowered by the light, then in that state, the mind sees no dreams. So it is like conceptually what we said. When the deep sleep happens, your body is dropped, your mind is dropped, your intellect is dropped, because you can't use your intellect in your deep sleep, and even the ego is dropped. When the ego is dropped, what happens is no longer that reflected consciousness is ruling. So you are going closer to the Brahman in your deep sleep. Conceptually, what we say is, it is in the Brahman's presence a jiva is delivered in your deep sleep. So that's why the deep sleep experience is a common experience. Your waking experience is separate. Each one of us, the dream experience is separate. I may have a dream and others may have a dream. However close you are, doesn't matter. Dream experiences are different. Whereas when it comes to the deep sleep, the experience is one common thread for each one of us. Blissful ignorance is how the deep sleep for everybody, whether it is a king on the bed or a servant sleeping on the floor, doesn't matter. Deep sleep state is one and the same for every prani. Doesn't matter whether it is human being or not. Everyone sleep. As long as the sleep is there, it is the blissful ignorance that is a prani or jiva is delivered to, and there you are actually going closer to the Brahman. That's why the verse said, Ahar Ahar Brahman Gachan. So you are delivered to the Brahman's doorstep every day. Only thing is, I can't remember because of the ignorance that is there. I don't experience that directly. Indirectly, I am experiencing. That is where the Turiya comes into picture, where it says that once you overcome the three states, the fourth, it is not even called a state, but for the lack of words, people use it as Turiya Avastha. Really speaking, Turiya is not Avastha like the other three. Turiya is Turiya. It's an experience wherein you are closer to the Brahman, but you are aware that you are closer to the Brahman with single thought of Brahman in your mind. That is how the light is coming into picture here. So it is, again, Rishi is very clear in terms of what he is indicating. He is describing sleep, he is describing dream, he is describing this, but really speaking, he is talking about a sadhaka who is going towards the Brahman through sadhana. So when light overcomes, normally light in our Shastras is linked to something where you can become aware of something. You see. Normally in the light, our eyes are able to see. You switch off the light, I cannot see anything. So as far as that... Yes, please.
When you are in this state, it's very close to samadhi. And sadhaka naturally wouldn't want to come out of that situation, because if he is aware that he is in this situation, why would he want to come out of this?
That is where prarabdha kicks in, whether it is samadhi or deep sleep. It is only the prarabdha karma which actually pushes you back into this one. And that's why they say death is linked to your prarabdha. If prarabdha is not there, you may go to sleep and you never wake up. Can happen many times to many people. Yeah. So it is the prarabdha which actually decides to come back. You don't have a choice there. It pushes you back into the samsara. And similarly, for a person who is doing even an advanced sadhaka, for example, who is doing a meditation, samadhi avastha, once he reaches, again, it is your papa punya and the prarabdha karma which brings you back into this one. It is only after continuous practice, ahar ahar, like what they mentioned, that Brahman stage will be there only after repeated sadhana that you do, you will come out. And even for deep sleep, Mohiniji, it is only your prarabdha which wakes you up. Otherwise, there is no jiva would like to come back. Some people are very lazy, that's why. They are able to manage prarabdha well, maybe. Okay?
Thank you.
So, he says, he is describing the Sushupti Avastha. He says, that is when the bliss occurs in this body. Again, the words are very carefully chosen here. It applies to your Sushupti Avastha, But by using the term that light overpowers, means what? That light of Brahman overpowers your mind. Overpowers your mind either in meditation or in your sleep. Mind, as long as it is dreaming, you are not in deep sleep. It is a disturbed sleep that you have. Whether it is good dream or bad dream, you are not real sleeping. But once you are going into the deep sleep state, how you are going? When the light overpowers the mind. Mind has to be going out of the functionality to a great extent. And in your samadhi avastha, what happens? What this one say? Yoga says that mind should be blank. Buddhism says mind should be blank. No desires, no thoughts. But in Advaita Vedanta, we don't say that. We say that there is one single thought of Brahman. That is the requirement as far as Advaita Vedanta is concerned. So in your deep sleep, what happens? Mind completely goes off. You are delivered by the light because you are closer to the light and you enjoy the bliss in your deep sleep. That is deep sleep. Whereas in meditation, light overpowers, but that light overpowering is with a continuous single focus, deliberate attempt to go near to the Brahman.
When you come out of that, do you remember that?
Sorry?
When you come out of that state, do you remember that when you wake up, when you come back?
Yeah. Because deliberately you are doing. It is called as Akhanda Brahmakara Vritti. Remember this term, doesn't matter even if you don't remember. Hopefully you heard this. Akhanda Brahmakara Vritti. Brahma Akara Vritti means when you are doing Samadhi Avastha, normally you do what we call it as with form. So that form means not nearly a Rama, Krishna like that, but a name associated, you chant associated with a name or form. And Akhanda Brahmakara Vritti, it is still a thought that takes you to the Savikalpaka Samadhi. Only when you drop even that name, Akhanda Brahmakara Vritti, you become a Nirvikara, what did I say? Savikara, Nirvikara. Nirvikara, Akhandaka, Brahmakara Vritti. Again, that Vritti also will become very light. But still, that vritti is there, maintained, and that is the one actually you will bring you back out of samadhi after some time, depending upon your punya and prarabdha, just like your deep sleep. That is how they describe your samadhi avastha. So deliberately here, Rishi is using the term as light. Light overpowers the mind. Yeah. Okay.
But relative to the question Mohini had, one is in deep sleep, you don't have any awareness. But in meditation, when you reach that stage, you go in it with awareness. So in deep sleep, you don't have any control.
Because you dropped everything.
Yeah, you go come back whenever. But the other part, when you go into meditation, you explain in last words.
Yeah, I got your question, Abhani. So in the Panchadashi chapter 1, which we went through, this particular discussion came there. They also describe exactly the same one in terms of deep sleep and samadhi avastha as well. Because you don't know whether there is a vritti or not. See, for an experience like what you are telling, I am deliberately doing when going into this state for my samadhi avastha, unlike my deep sleep where I don't have control. In deep sleep as well, because there is no mind associated with that, you don't have any thoughts that you can recollect in your deep sleep. But once you come out, you still remember that I am the one who enjoyed something in your bliss state in your deep sleep. So that, they say, can be explained in two ways. One is because it is linked to the Brahman. Brahman is consciousness, is awareness by itself. So there is a memory associated in that particular aspect, comes back through to you. Second thing they say is there is a special kind of sushupti vritti, means a deep sleep vritti that's still maintained, which actually makes you remember the bliss that you enjoyed in your deep sleep. Similar to that, it says, the Panchadashi says, Swami Vidyaranya says that even in your samadhi avastha, Because you are deliberately taking out all your thoughts. And without thought, without mind, you are dropping mind even in your samadhi. So without mind, there cannot be any experience. So it is very similar to deep sleep, but somehow Vedanta says you cannot have a state where there is no thought, yet you remember certain things. So it is the very subtlest thought that's still maintained, and they call that as again akhanda brahmakara vritti. That subtle thought is still maintained even though the mind is dropped in your samadhi avastha. And when you wake up, when you come out of that into your waking state, you will carry a memory of what that experience in terms of bliss is. That also a bliss experience that you enjoy, but there the experience that you recollect is slightly different, in the sense that you remember that this is something deliberately I have enjoyed and I have come back, unlike the deep sleep. Recollection process, more or less the same. Enjoyment process, more or less the same. Only in deep sleep, it is called reflected bliss, mainly because of the ajnana. Whereas in samadhi, the same bliss, but it is not a reflected, it is true bliss. Because your experience, you remember that particular subtle thought still is there. Although prarabdha brings you back, you will remember, you will enjoy that particular aspects. That actually is the push to go back into samadhi. Otherwise, why they will again go into that? If I don't even remember I enjoyed the presence of Bhagavan, nobody will do it again. Yeah? I hope I answered that. Sayatha Soumya.
Sayatha Soumya.
Vayamsi Vaso Vriksham Sampratishthante Evam Vavai Tat Sarvam Para Atmani Pratishtante. So he says, he's just giving an example of how the different factors go and settle in the great Atman, giving you that bliss experience. He is now telling that just as, O beloved, birds retire to a tree to roost, so indeed all these rest in the Supreme Atman. So all that is there in your deep sleep actually is resting in the Supreme Atman. So Supreme Atman is what Pare Atma is being described here. That means that Kutastha Atma is the one which actually even in your deep sleep is near you. Only thing is you don't remember, as I mentioned, because of the Ajnana, you come out and you don't even recollect that you were in the presence of Supreme. That's why Gurudev always says that you don't lack in experience, only you lack in knowledge. As long as a guru gives you knowledge, experience, you have plenty. Because every day you are going into the presence of the Supreme is how Gurudev describes that particular experience. Yeah, even in deep sleep. So here, a beautiful example is given here. Birds retire to the tree. If you see a tree, lots of birds come in and they sleep. In the morning, they wake up and they go on to their business, do everything, come back to their nest and come and sit in you. Similarly, he says in the morning, all your things wake up, different 10 indriyas and different activities that one comes through. You go there, you come back to your nest and you sleep in your bed. So similarly, he says that everybody goes into deep sleep with that particular experience and they go back to the that sampratishtate atmani, pare atmani sampratishtate. Again, remember, as I mentioned, you can apply it to the deep sleep. You can also apply it to your sadhana where you are going into the samadhi avastha. Exactly like this, that you go and you come back, you go and come back. It repeats again and again till that experience is becoming a complete reality for a realized person. Then he doesn't require any further going and sleeping in terms of the sadhana. No longer a samadhi avastha is required for a realized master, because Even when he is awake, he is already Pare Atmani Sampratishtanti. Okay. Next one we will read. This is a beautiful definition as to, in this particular thing, he says, Sarvam, everything comes and rests in the Atma. So here, a complete definition is given in terms of what all factors constitute this Mithya Prapancha. The complete Mithya Prapancha that we are talking about, which go back and rest in the Supreme Atman, is what is being described in the next verse. A slightly longer verse, but very easy to understand. Yeah. We'll quickly
How is it Pratyanja? If we are near the Brahman, then it's not Pratyanja.
Sorry?
If we go in the deep sleep or Turi Avastha, closer to the Brahman.
I don't see an app for that. You'll need to download one.
Sorry?
I didn't say anything. It was interruption somewhere.
I don't know what is comes.
Yeah. When we reach Turi state, how can we call it Pratyanja? Pratyanja means not real.
Turiya is different from deep sleep. Turiya
That's what I said.
your,
When we are in Turi Avastha, or just, and we are closer to Brahman, right?
You are with Brahman in Turiya Avastha, correct?
Yeah, we are. So when we come back, we cannot call that Turi Avastha Pratyanja, right?
Pratyanja, I don't understand the term, Mohaniji. What
the Pratyanja is artificial. The Pratyanja is not real, right? Or am I misunderstanding it?
No. I don't know the term anyway, but doesn't matter.
Sorry, Shankarji. I think I heard you use the word Pratyanja, right? Or did I hear it? Or did I want to hear it?
Some Pratishtante.
Pratishtante means actually, okay. So
it actually is going nearer to
completely different. Okay.
Correct. Yeah. Sorry, maybe my pronunciation was not good enough.
No, it's perhaps I wanted to hear that.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No problem. We'll quickly read this. Already 11:30, but I think we'll read this and then stop. Yeah.
No.
Prithvi cha Prithvi matra.
Prithvi cha Prithvi matra.
Agree, matra cha you can put it. Prithvi cha Prithvi matra cha.
Prithvi matra cha.
Paschapo matra cha.
Paschapo matra cha.
Tejasta tejo matra cha.
Tejasya tejo matra cha.
Vayuscha vayu matra cha.
Vayusya vayu matra cha.
Akashascha akasha matra cha.
Akashascha akash matra cha.
Chakshuscha drashtuvyam cha.
Chakshuscha drashtuvyam cha.
Shotram cha shotravyam cha.
Shotram cha shotravyam cha.
Granam cha gratavyam cha.
Pranam cha gratavyam cha.
Rasascha rasayitavyam cha.
Rasascha rasayitavyam cha.
Vaktva sparsha yitavyam cha.
Sparsha yitavyam cha.
Vak cha.
Vakya cha.
Vaktavyam cha.
Vaktavyam cha.
Hastau cha adatavyam cha.
Hastau cha adatyam cha.
Upastascha anandaitavyam cha.
Anandaitavyam cha.
Ayuscha visarjitavyam cha.
Ayuscha visarjitavyam cha.
Padau cha gantavyam cha.
Padau cha gantavyam cha.
Manascha mantavyam cha.
Manascha mantavyam cha.
Buddhischa bauddhavyam cha.
Buddhischa bauddhavyam cha.
Ahankarascha.
Ahankarascha.
Ahankartavyam cha.
Ahankartavyam cha.
Chittam cha.
Chittam
Chetayitavyam cha
Chetitavyam cha
Tejascha
Tejascha
Vidhotayitavyam cha
Vidhutayitvam cha
Pranascha
Pranascha
Vidharitavyam cha.
Vidhayitvam cha.
I think it is pretty clear the terms are, we are all used to these things. He is talking about the 5 elements. He talked with earth and its subtle elements, water and its elements, akasha and its elements, space. And so he is talking about the 5 elements and its subtle properties associated with that. Yeah, subtle aspects of that particular this one. Because we have seen before that it is the elements which actually creates this different koshas as well. Yeah, earth, for example, is Mooladhara. Like that, we have seen that particular this one already. So all of that associated will become a mithya definition, as I was mentioning. And similarly, it talks about the indriyas now. So eye and what can be seen, ear and what can be heard, hand, nose, what can be smelled, taste and what its objects. And similarly, it talks about the hands that can be grasped. So pancha karmendriya, pancha jnanendriya. So he has given definition of that in a very detailed way. So it talks about and he talks about mind, manascha, and whatever it is, whatever it can be, whatever it can think about. So manascha, everything is associated with the mithya prapancha, which will go and rest in the supreme Atman that we are talking about. And ego also, ego and its objects. And chitta, chitta is our memory. So chitta associated, memories associated with that, everything is part of the mithya prapancha, which go and sampratishthante with pare atmani. And only one thing where the light and its objects also are there. Light is what here, the reflected consciousness and its objects associated with the reflected consciousness, all of them put together. But he talks about prana and everything supported by it. And all these rest in the state of sleep like birds in their nest. He talks about that. Now, just 2 verses before we have seen that the prana is the one which is awake in the deep sleep. Now, Rishi is telling prana also goes and sleeps with the rest with the sampratishthante with pare atman. So Gurudev says that it appears to be a contradiction here. It's as if Rishi has made a mistake. Really speaking, if you consider this as a aspect of who is sleeping and what is sleeping in that particular person, when you talk about that, a couple of verses before we have seen, it is Ishvara who is being all, becoming all, seeing all. If you take it that way, really speaking, you are not sleeping only. Because there is no you. Really speaking, there is no you associated with that. It is Ishvara who is managing you as an instrument, and everything goes back into a laya. During that particular deep sleep state, everything is being absorbed back into Ishvara. In that sense, when you say the mind is the one where it is withdrawing, really speaking, everything is going back into the Ishvara. So if you take it from that perspective, prana, although you are telling is awake, really speaking, prana is also, we have seen, a shadow of the Ishvara in that sense. So really speaking, without that Ishvara, nothing will function. So even prana will go back into this. So prana also becomes a shadow, like a shadow, or prana also becomes what we call it as the mithya prapancha, part of the mithya prapancha. Only thing that is real is the Ishvara associated. Everything else is mithya. In Vedanta, even Ishvara is mithya in some of the Vadas, but we can take that as Ishvara because of his knowledge. You can still compare him with Brahman, whereas Ishvara is the one aspect which is either side you can push him of the line of that mithya. But as far as this particular text is concerned, it is Ishvara who is actually sleeping, that Pare Atmani, that Paratma who is there, everything which is there, including the prana, which is supposed to be awake in you, keeping you alive, is going and sampratishthante in the Pare Atma. So the complete definition of your Mithya Prapancha, you will find in Prashnopanishad in this particular verse. Very important verse from that perspective. Yeah. Shall we do one more verse and then stop, please? Okay?
Okay.
Yes, 2-3 minutes we will take. Yesha hi drashta,
Esha hi drashta,
sprashta,
drashta,
shrota,
Shrota,
grata,
grata,
rasayita,
rasayita,
manta,
manta,
bodha, karta, vijnanatma purushaha,
Vijnanatma Purushaha,
sa pare akshara,
Sapare Akshara,
atmani sampratishtante.
Atmani Sampratishtate.
Yeah. So why I wanted to complete this is because this is linked to the verse before. In before verse, a complete list is given as to when you talk about the universe, created universe, what all aspects are the ones which we call it as Mithya Prapancha, which are enlivened by the Ishvara. That particular aspect is given here. However, this particular verse is also giving you the same, but more in terms of how the consciousness works in these aspects. So when we talk about the 5 elements or the five jnanendriya, 5 karmendriya, everything actually works as far as the me is concerned. It works as an observer, as a experiencer. So the same things he says, Yesha hi drashta. So from the aspect of certain aspects of fire, as well as with the respect to the eye and seeing, I become a drashta. I become a seer. So it is the concept is remains same, but here as I understand the experience as an observer, as a doer, those things are mentioned here, and all of them will go and rest in the Ishvara. So I may say that I am the seer, but he is telling drashta, sprashta, shrotra, ghata, rasayita. As a taster, as a smeller, as a hearer, as a talker, as a this one. Everybody, what I'm thinking that I am doing and attributing that to them, everything goes back to that sampratishtate, atmani sampratishtate. Really speaking, you don't do anything. It is the Atma which actually does everything, but you attribute yourself as that drashta, sprashta, shrota, ghatra. Whole our life goes into as a taking the ownership of these actions, as an observer, as an experiencer. And similarly, manta, bodha, karta, doer, vijnanatma purusha. A term that is used in this text, but normally what we vijnanatma purusha is nothing but the jivatma. Jivatma is being defined as Vijnanatma. Why? Because the I feeling is there in my Vijnanamaya Kosha. Every day in the morning when we wake up, the I feeling comes in that Vijnanamaya Kosha. And that Vijnanamaya Kosha, Purusha, is being called as Vijnanatma Purusha. Even this Vijnanatma Purusha, he goes back into Sa Pare Akshare. That indestructible Pare, that Supreme Atman which is there, Atmani Sampradishtam. Everything goes back to the substratum of this Pare Atma, Sa Pare Akshara Atman. Pare Supreme, Akshara indestructible Atma, which is there. Because what we are seeing is all these states that are there, whether I am a seer or a hearer, has got a beginning and end. When I'm seeing, I'm doing, but once I go and sit in front of a plate of food, I become a taster. Then my seeing is there, but predominantly I become a taster at that particular time. I'm hearing a music, then I become a hearer. All these got temporary, plus and minus. But whereas Akshara, Pare Akshare, Aksharam is indestructible, a supreme, continuous, infinite Atman. That is where all these aspects go and rest. So it's not only the organs that go, but even the experiencer goes and sits with the same Sampradishtante with the Pareya. So it is same Atma which actually is sustaining your physical world outside in terms of body organs, and even inside as the experiencer that you think you are doing. Everything is supported by the same Supreme Atma. That is where they go back to. So a very important chapter. This chapter, next question, 5th actually talks about Omkara Upasana. Upasana, he gives about Omkara Upasana, and he goes back to the Supreme Atman in next chapter. Chapter 6 again goes back to this one, but this particular 4th and 6th actually defines for you what exactly is the Supreme Atman that we normally call as Brahman or Ishvara, you can say. This definition will come in the next 2 verses. You will find the definition of this particular Ishvara coming into it. Yeah, very important from Upanishad perspective as to what is the subject of Upanishad. And every Upanishad will give you this, that difference between Mithya Prapancha and the Paramahadika Satya, into which all this which becomes a substratum for the entire creation to be available. Okay. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you very much. Enjoy your holidays.
Thank you. Enjoy your there, whatever.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very own.